Welcome back. You're watching Inside Politics. Now, UDA party has written to IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati demanding he directs cabinet secretaries to desist from 2022 presidential election politics, citing need for impartiality. Meanwhile, for the second time in a month, Deputy President William Ruto returned to Makueni County and laughed off at Kalonzo Musyoka after UDA aspirant in Nguu, Mombasa Road mini poll came second behind Wiper candidate. Ruto championed for his agenda on reviving the economy amid Kenya's overwhelming debt. Let's see this report by Willie Lusige.
A few weeks after Mombasa Road, UDA candidate Daniel Musau lost narrowly to an independent candidate, Timothy Maneno, in October 14th mini poll, the Deputy President William Ruto returned to Makueni County to thank the people of Kibwezi West for overwhelming voting for UDA candidate.
Tumeamua kufuata UDA kwa sababu ile liberation, the third liberation that we want as a country need to be liberated economically.
Mumetupatia kura nyingi hata ingawaje mshindi alikuwa mtu mwingine.
Ruto laughed off at Wiper party leader Kalonzo Musyoka after UDA candidate in the mini poll took the second position while Wiper candidate came third.
Na tulishinda Wiper na mimi sikukuja na Kalonzo alikuwa hapa. Na kama kumbe mimi ndio niliharibu. Kumbe ningekuja tungeshinda hivi.
The Deputy President championing for his agenda, promising to eliminate brokers in agriculture amid claims that the other leaders have kept quiet as Kenya debt overwhelms taxpayers.
Na tufukuze wakora na brokers na wale wote huko cartel ambao wanawasumbua wakulima wasifikishe mazao yao sokoni kwa njia rahisi na kwa bei ya sawa. Hapo ndipo sasa tutakuwa na pesa ya kutosha ya kupanua uchumi, ndio Kenya isiwe nchi omba ya kukopa madeni kila mahali. Mpaka Chinese hii karibu anauza nchi yetu.
Ruto attacking ODM party leader Raila Odinga's presidential manifesto and warning that he will stop him like the way he switched off reggae.
Na mpango yetu ni tofauti na ya wale wengine. Wale wengine hawana mpango, yao ni tibi mtialala, alafu wakimaliza ni reggae. Makelele, sijui nobody can stop reggae, sijui nini. Lakini si reggae ilisimama. Ama na ilikwama, sio hata kusema ilikwama kabisa.
Ruto also held a meeting at a Mali town along Mombasa-Nairobi highway where he met UDA delegates accompanied by Aden Duale, Rigathi Gachagua, Victor Munyaka, Vincent Musyoka, among others. Willie Lusige, KTN News.
Yes. Deputy President William Ruto continues to make forays into Ukambani. But the main story and what we want to discuss right now is the UDA party's demand that cabinet secretaries desist from taking part in active politicking ahead of the 2022 presidential election. We want to start off with Dennis Ntumbi. And of course, Dennis, you would also get this opportunity to talk about the coalitions and whether or not OKA, or the One Kenya Alliance, has space in UDA, or do you think they should go alone as a third force? But the main matter I want you to discuss is on this issue of CSs taking part in campaigns, and UDA has singled out two CSs, that's Fred Matiang'i and Joe Moshero of ICT.
Thank you very much, Fred. And the reason I want to comment on the aspect of coalitions, because my colleagues have, there's an error that I seek to, convince them to come out of, rationalizing hate and making it, painting it as intellectualism. The hate for Ruto is too much, and you want to verbalize it as some type of intellectualism. If it was a tree that my friend spoke, I'd call it a cactus. So I want them to stop the hate against Ruto. It's too much, and it's poisonous and vindictive. Going into the coalition aspect, this is what I want to say. There is no one who has a worse record in the country like Raila Odinga on the aspect of coalition. Look at the environment he created for Kibaki. The environment he created for anyone through violence to shake their hands and even bring down a legitimately elected government. Look at what happened in NASA. The same guys are wounded from the wounds of NASA. And it was out of the doings, the lack of integrity of Raila. And you're asking these people to support the person who will never agree to be second, a person who will never agree to the fidelity of what has been agreed upon. You're asking them to support the same person. Mudavadi has said something critical. Mudavadi has said, we are getting threats, we are getting intimidations. People are calling us at 3 in the morning when we are sleeping with our wives to ask us to support a particular person. It goes without saying that even a child can tell you that certain aspects of government that mobilized everyone and says, we are only going to endorse people from NASA, the NASA that was dying. Oka will face another injury because unfortunately these gentlemen have stopped what it is that we call rational thinking and partnering with people like what UDA has done, a coalition with the people, and they're walking around the corridors of State House waiting for this flawed doctrine of succession, and one man with one vote who cannot make anybody president to get them to be president. That is, again, upsetting critical tenets of the Constitution. Okay. Coming back to the aspect of cabinet secretaries, this is a matter that has been sung over and over and over again. But we have a government that does not respect court orders, that does not respect the jurisprudence set by the people and the courts. It is the rule of politics and not the rule of law. They don't care what the Constitution says. In fact, they want that Constitution out, and they want to bring what Mark was saying, BBI. Some things that you can do in Parliament and other things through presidential decrees. You want to tell us that we are not going to do anything else other than you bring the aspect of BBI. Cabinet secretaries' continuance is a nuisance for them to participate in politics. Not because they shouldn't, because Kenyans said we want cabinet secretaries who are technocrats, who will look at certain segments of the Constitution and see that the reason why they are there is to sustain development, to make our livelihoods easy, to respect that cabinet is one of the greatest instruments and organs of national unity, not going on parades and insulting this person and insulting that person and even violating honor to your boss. We want the cabinet secretaries to stop splitting this government. The cohesion body should call these people out. They are breaking our country back to where we said we'll never go back to back there again. And they should respect the will of the people. Is that there are two sections of leaders. The elected one is allowed to politic, so the president can say whatever he wants. But the one who is nominated must focus on the work that Kenyans has given them, and they should stop violating and disrespecting the rule of law in this country. It's unfortunate, it's callous, it's something that we need to call out as much as possible because it violates the rule of law whatsoever. So UDA is right because UDA is the largest political party in this country that represents the majority of the people. And when it speaks, it needs to be respected.
Dismas Mokwa, do you agree with UDA when they point out the two CSs that, and they say that these dockets that they hold, CS Fred Matiang'i holds the Interior and Coordination of National Government. His counterpart, Joe Moshero, is in charge of ICT, that these are two dockets that are very key to any electoral process in terms of security and communication. There will be seconded, or rather seconding officers to the IEBC as well during election time. If the two CSs are seen to be politicking actively, that there is indeed a problem?
Well, I agree with UDA, but on different premises. And let's just go back in history for 5 years. 5 years ago, almost today, when NASA complained that a number of powerful cabinet secretaries were participating in active politics and campaigning for Jubilee, the Deputy President William Samoei Ruto cautioned Raila Odinga and told Raila Odinga that he needs to calm down, that these senior cabinet ministers, or rather cabinet secretaries, are merely doing their work. And what they were doing then was proactively campaigning for the Jubilee administration, therefore tilting the ground. Now, 5 years later, the same deputy president and his lieutenants are complaining that a number of powerful cabinet secretaries have now aligned themselves to Raila Odinga, and they are campaigning for Raila Odinga. Now, this is again the definition of toxic politics. We need to take a position, and the position which is consistent with our national interest and public interest, When we formed this cabinet and said that the cabinet secretaries or ministers would not be politicians, so their responsibility was to sit in the office and assist the president in delivering his mandate, that they were not supposed to engage in active politics. But it's a sad day today that not only are these cabinet secretaries participating in politics, we also have senior public servants of rank, county commissioners, regional commissioners, who have openly declared their interest in politics. And Chapter 6 and Article 10 demands that if you are a public servant today, or you are a cabinet secretary today, and you want to plunge into active politics, then resign your position so that you go and plunge into active politics. So the position taken by UDA, in my view, is the right one, so that people execute responsibilities they've been given without engaging in active politics. If you want to engage in active politics, then please resign your position and then go into that political space. And then related to that, you saw a few days ago, Chebukati is a member of a multi-agency team where they've got all these members, everybody else, including the Chief Justice. Now one wonders, if the Chief Justice is going to participate in preparing Kenya with Chebukati and company for the elections, and then after the election, somebody decides to go to the Supreme Court, there's a presidential petition, how will the Chief Justice sit in that court? Because, you know, she would have participated in preparing Kenyans for this election, and then a petitioner goes before a court, and she's the person who is supposed to settle that matter. In my view, Chebukati must be given the independence to do his work alone, and all these cabinet secretaries, public servants of rank, who want to support any politician in Kenya, or they want to go into competitive politics, they should create time and resign their positions so that they can go into active politics. It's not possible to serve two masters at one go.
Yes, the IEBC indeed is an independent commission, but it depends on very many other agencies to do its job. Hesbon, do you agree with UDA party that probably the involvement of senior members of the cabinet in what could be seen as politics is a problem?
Well, I think it's not even what UDA is saying and whether we agree with UDA. I think right is right and wrong is wrong. And we must assume this moral high ground where we stand on a position that is based on categorical imperative, that we do that which would expect to be done to us. So when these luminaries in UDA were enjoying, the patronage of cabinet secretaries, they were telling off, NASA, which was the coalition that they were up against. And that is under 5 years ago. It was wrong then. It is wrong now for cabinet secretaries to take part in any electoral process and be partisan in that process. And I think where we are right now, it is not a question of asking these cabinet secretaries to resign, because this is the politics that we've bestowed upon ourselves. It is just a question of coming out strongly and giving them the two options. Either you keep off this politics of endorsing presidential candidates and still take part in a steering committee that is overseeing the same election. I'm sure no presidential candidate would want to win an election that is shrouded in illegalities and irregularities, and even so, an election that is shrouded in ethical issues. So the most honorable thing for these politicians to do is, everyone in this country has a stand. By virtue of the public servants means that for them to deliver on their public mandate, what we are paying them for, they need to keep their stands to themselves. This overzealous approach that they have to please, President Uhuru Kenyatta by appearing to support what the president seems to be supporting, does not help the cause. And the earlier they realize that, the better for them. It actually works for UDA when UDA makes a lot of noise saying that the referee is part of our opponent, because that is exactly what UDA would want, to be perceived, as the underdog in this election. And therefore, the evaluation of UDA will be based on, one, everything that the government that has done wrong, so that they are evaluated in a favorable manner. But allow me to respond to something that Dennis said.
Go ahead.
Yes, so Dennis said that, members of this panel hate the deputy president. and alluded to the fact that all political leaders seem to be having a problem with the deputy president. But let me just disabuse that notion. In this panel, Dennis has proved beyond any reasonable doubt that he has no respect for both the president and Raila Odinga, and he has very unkind words for everything that they've done. The deputy president himself has talked about the president's legacy, which Dennis on this panel has rubbished. Raila Odinga has contributed immensely to what we have in this country today, including the Kibaki legacy that we talk about. But Dennis has rubbished that. But we will forgive Dennis because we have nothing against David. Let us unpack the deputy president. The deputy president goes around the country telling people that he has God and the people. That in his campaign team, they're not going to insult anyone or abuse anyone. But what does he say when he goes to Ukambani? We have that clip. He belittles the kingpin in Ukambani, calls Kalonzo names, and ask yourself, by doing that to Kalonzo Musyoka, Hustler Nation or no Hustler Nation, who is going to give him votes in Ukambani region? Number two, he goes all over the country. Let me just finish. He goes all over the country.
I need Mark Bichachi to have a say before the break as well. Just wrap it up. Well, Mark.
Okay, let me wrap it up by saying that he goes all over the country calling all these leaders as people who are ganging up against him. And he calls them watapeli. He calls them corrupt. He calls the former prime minister repeatedly Moganga and Muchawi. So who is abusive? Who is belittling other leaders? So let me just ask, if he was to go around the country campaigning, these voters who believe in Raila, these voters who believe in Mudavadi, these voters who believe in Gideon Moi, Wetangula, and Kalonzo, how will they give him that vote when he has belittled one of their own?
Hesbon, I believe your point has been made. Mark Bichachi, back to the discussion about CSs getting involved in politics. Is it too high an ideal for us to expect that these people who are appointed in a political manner to offices, to state offices, that they will stay true to that ideal of not getting involved in politics?
You know, one of the things that we need to disabuse UDA of is he who comes to court must come with clean hands. And UDA has this consistent habit of preaching water and taking wine. You know, we go to church on Sunday and say, don't abuse people, then next minute, waganga, watapeli, and other things is what is coming out of your mouth. Why I bring this in this particular argument is UDA, the current leader of UDA, is a beneficiary of CSs in the past who've campaigned. And this is the issue with the philosophy of UDA, that if it is happening to me, then it is good. If it's happening to another person, then it is bad. That's not how it is supposed to be. And let me break rank with everyone and say this, that number one, I think that our constitutional conclusion that people who are selected to be CSs, cabinet secretaries, should be apolitical. I think that was a mistake. And the reason I think so is because of this. Number one, the person who does the technical work, who ensures the work is done, is called a PS. That is his job. He's the one who sits there and makes sure the mandate is done. The person who is in charge of policy, and that policy comes from a political direction, it comes from the will of the president and the mandate he got from the people, is a CS. It is by definition a political position. Whatever a cabinet secretary tries to do is to advance the political agenda of the sitting president. So yes, in terms of the letter of the law, it is wrong that CSs should campaign. But in my view, in the practical approach of politics, CSs are political animals. And the truth of that, you can see it in Steve Mnuchin, who was working for Donald Trump. You can see it in the CSs that are working for Biden today, and that is where we borrowed our constitution from. So whereas the letter is correct that CSs should stay away from politics, I disagree with that premise, because you cannot give someone a political position to push a political agenda. The CS of sports, when she's working stadiums, she's producing a political agenda, stadiums that have been built in the last 2 years. The CS of health, when you produce 50 hospitals, yes, it is part of delivering services to the people, but it is the stated political agenda of the president to bring universal health care to the people. So you cannot separate the politics from the position of a CS. We can discuss the position of a permanent secretary all day long because that is a technical position. But the position of a CS, I'd like to break rank with everyone and say that position, we made a mistake in our constitution. It is political. It should remain political.
Wow. Okay. On that note, we take a break. When we come back on Inside Politics, we get to hear your views. We'll share the number for you to call directly and give us comments on the discussions we've been having today.